Have you ever stepped out into a modern city and felt a quiet, unexplained weight pressed down on your chest? Not a physical burden, but a subtle, emotional draining. As if the space itself was asking your mind to shut down. For over a century, we have lived under an invisible dogma. We surrendered our daily lives to the relentless rhythm of the factories. We picked up rulers, locked ourselves into T-squares, and walled our souls inside 90-degree boxes. Sure, we gained efficiency. We built faster, cheaper, and higher. But somewhere in that bargain, we severed our evolutionary connection to the living world. I was sitting on a train traveling to Berlin. This single thought wouldn't leave me alone. Is the human mind truly meant to live inside shapes that nature never created? So, I packed my camera and went searching for an answer. I traveled south to Mediterranean light, to a city where at the dawn of the early 20th century, while the rest of the world was worshipping the machine, one solitary, reclusive visionary launched a one-man rebellion against the straight line. Antoni Gaudí. When you stand before Casa Vicens, you are not looking at mere brick and mortar. You are looking at an outburst of pure joy. A colorful manifesto written in defiance of industrial coldness. While factory machines were stamping out uniform gray blocks, a young Gaudi was shattering bright ceramics with his own hands and pressing real marigolds from the soil directly into the facade. To understand his mind, you have to look at his roots. He was the son and grandson of coppersmiths from Tarragona. Watching his father bend flat copper sheets into complex three-dimensional shapes gave him an intuitive 3D spatial understanding long before he ever drew a floor plan. Sick with childhood rheumatism, he spent quiet months in the country simply observing Mediterranean light, plants, and geology. When asked about his favorite architecture textbook, he pointed out his studio window at a tree and said, "That's my master." His philosophy was simple. Originality is returning to the origin. Gaudi saw a flaw that academic architecture ignored. For thousands of years, architects relied on just two tools, the compass and the T-square. The T-square created flat walls. The compass created rigid cylindrical columns and hemispherical domes. They treated cubes, pyramids, and spheres as the highest symbols of human intelligence. Nature works under the inexorable law of gravity and the drive for survival. It doesn't attempt to manufacture art for art's sake. Nature's designs are purely functional, tested and perfected over millions of years. Gaudi arrived at a revolutionary conclusion. If an architect pursues beauty directly through abstract theories and artificial symmetry, they achieve nothing more than empty decoration. Straight lines belong to human shortcuts. Curved lines belong to nature.
fiyatlar beni çok mutlu ediyor.
Think about the last time you walked through a pine forest or stood by the ocean. Notice how your breathing slowed, how your heart settled. That is biophilia, our deep biological longing to be embraced by organic geometries. When Gaudi built Park Güell between 1900 and 1914, he refused to flatten the terrain. Instead of forcing nature to adapt to stone, he bent stone to flow with the mountain slope. He sculpted the famous serpentine bench using broken ceramic mosaics, a technique called trencadis. But this bench was not just decorative. Its contours were molded directly to match the ergonomic curvature of the human lumbar spine.
Tosh, what do you
Yeah.
think?
What do
Tell
I
me
think
English.
in English?
Yeah.
First of all, it's so warm here. Saying warm is also not enough. Hot. But I'm excited because every time I visit something that Gaudi designed, it was something different. There were always something unique about that specific landmark. So for this one, there will also be some, and I'm waiting for that. And I didn't even check out the images online, so that it will not be a spoiler for me before coming to here. So it will be really new to me now.
So you know better than me.
Here is Gaudi's greatest breakthrough. Nature's organic forms are not chaotic. They are powered by a hyper-efficient system called ruled surfaces. A ruled surface looks like a complex 3D curve, but it's created entirely by moving a straight line along guiding paths. Because natural fibers like wood grain, bone, and tendons grow along straight paths under tension and compression, nature relies on four specific ruled surfaces: the helicoid, the hyperboloid, the conoid, and the hyperbolic paraboloid. Building these double curved spaces didn't require expensive machinery. Masons simply stretch a piece of string between two straight wooden rails, guiding thin Catalan bricks row by row directly along the straight line. Using just string, bricks, and gravity, hyperstable sculptures emerge out of thin air.
Biraz da eğlence.
If you really want to feel Gaudi's soul, you have to step inside Casa Batlló at night. Under the dim amber lights, you are not standing inside a building. You are inside the chest cavity of giant sleeping creature. In 1904, Gaudi committed a terrifying act of structural surgery. He gutted the lower masonry, replacing heavy brick walls with slender stone pillars and hidden steel beams. His lead contractor, Josep Biao, confessed he spent sleepless nights terrified the whole building would crash down into the street. But Gaudi held it all up, inventing the open, free-flowing floor plan decades before modernism took credit for it. Inside, every detail serves an engineering purpose. Long before electric air conditioning, Gaudi designed a passive bioclimatic system. Beneath the window frames, he installed hand-carved wooden vents that open like the gills of a fish, allowing fresh sea breezes to circulate without creating cold drafts. At the building's center lies the light valve, or patio de luces. It's a masterclass in optics and thermodynamics. The walls are lined with ceramic tiles shifting from dark cobalt blue at the top to pale blue at the bottom. The dark tiles absorb intense sunlight at the roof, while lighter tiles reflect dim light near the bottom. Simultaneously, the windows get progressively larger as you descend. The result is perfectly uniform light distribution and a chimney effect that acts as a thermal regulator, raising lower floor temperatures in winter and keeping the building cool in summer. Outside, the facade acts as a thick wall, a three-dimensional transition zone where bay windows and stone balconies allow residents to inhabit the edge of the building, gazing at the street while protecting inside a living organism. And then, everything Gaudi ever dreamed, learned and suffered for comes together in one breathtaking crescendo, La Sagrada Familia. Step through the portal. You are not in cold, imposing church. You are standing in a petrified stone forest. Gaudi hated traditional Gothic flying buttresses, calling them architectural crutches. Instead, by shaping his ceiling walls as hyperboloids, he created central openings at the crown of the arches. These geometric skylights allow zenithal light to pour into the nave, a structural evolution that surpassed medieval cathedrals, which were forced to keep vault centers dark and solid. He was an architect who played with light like a composer plays with notes. On the eastern facade, cold blues and sea greens bathed the stone in the quiet hope of the morning sun. But as the day turns and the sun sets on the western Persian facade, the interior explodes. Blazing reds, fiery oranges, and deep ambers pour through the glass, casting literal flames of light that climb up the stone trunks to light up the golden ceiling. And how did he calculate these impossible double-curved stone structures without a single computer? He tied strings to his studio ceiling, loaded them with tiny bags of lead shot representing the building's weight, and let gravity do the math. The hanging strings formed perfect catenary curves, pure tension. He took a photograph, flipped it upside down, and instantly had the mathematically perfect lines of pure compression. Nature had calculated his cathedral. When people asked why construction was taking so long, he would smile softly and say, "My client is not in a hurry." When Gaudi was struck by a tram in 1926, dying quite in rags, he left behind no written treatises, only an open-ended geometric code. When his plaster-scale models were shattered during the Spanish Civil War, scholars struggled for decades to reconstruct his plans using 2D drawings. It was only in the late 20th century when architects introduced parametric CAD software like Rhino, Grasshopper, and 3D prototyping that his code was finally decoded. Engineers discovered an associative mathematical system where single adjustment updated 3,800 historical geometric dependencies instantly. Gaudi had invented parametric architecture a full century before the digital age. Gaudi proved that stone can bend. He proved that buildings can breathe. He proved that the architecture is not just a cold container for living, but a catalyst for the human soul. And nowhere is this truth more alive than when the city itself explodes into collective joy. Modernity chose the cold efficiency of the box, building habitats for machines rather than the human nervous system. But whenever you feel alienated by the concrete walls around you, remember, a different world is possible. We can build cities that heal us, inspire us, and bring us together. If you want to keep exploring the hidden psychology of space and architecture, make sure to hit that subscribe button.